again to the Crossroads Inn. I apologize for some technical difficulties. Because we're a little late, let's get right in. I want to introduce my panel. I have Chris.
What's up?
Cory.
Hello.
And a very special guest, Danny.
Hey, everyone.
So why don't we just get right into our initial thoughts on this episode. This is Season 7, Episode 2, Stormborn. Chris, initial thoughts.
Go ahead. Go first.
Yes, I am.
Well, Sand Snakes died, so that was cool. Besides that weird scene between the Dickless Wonder and the hottest girl in the show. Well, maybe. It lasted really long, like an awkwardly long amount of time.
Yep.
Overall, it was alright though. Things happened. You know, the Nymeria scene was pretty cool. I wish it turned out differently, but it was alright. Danny and John actually interact for the first time, like, ever. Just kind of, well, interact by, like, she sent him a DM, but, you know, that's about it.
Well, send him a DM.
Slide into them DMs, you know. Yeah. I'll go into more when I remember what else happened in this thing.
Fair enough. Cory, initial thoughts. Go ahead. I know you have a lot to say.
I could already tell by the way Chris, talked about a few scenes that not just me and Chris, but you and me, Mark, we already spoke earlier. We're going to have a lot of disagreements this episode. I loved this episode from top to bottom, period. And every time, I feel like I do this all the time, even in the Avatar project. I always open up as saying, I really like this episode. In Game of Thrones, I guarantee you I am going to like every episode unless I tell you I don't like the episode. So I'll never say that, but I'm going to tell you right now, this episode was great. I would argue, and I will argue with both of you, there was no filler in this episode, and every single scene had a purpose. So we will discuss that later on. That's all I have to say.
Well, I'm glad we've already reached this week's edition of Cory is Wrong. We'll spend the entire rest of the episode discussing why Cory is wrong. But first and foremost, let's have Danny give his initial thoughts.
I also happen to really like this episode. So just in terms of why... Oh, you guys hear me?
Yep, we can hear you.
Okay. So I really liked especially the scene, and this is one of the reasons that I love Game of Thrones, is all the strategizing that goes into it. And I love the scene at Dragonstone. I thought that was, not that we haven't gotten some of that, but I thought it was kind of a cool, like, high level, like, here's what's going on, and here's the state of alliances right now, and that was really cool to me. This we can get into later, but the ending scene, or the battle, however we want to put it, I don't know. I thought that was brilliantly well done, and I actually kind of think that it really complemented the episode well. So I thought it was really good, and I thought it was really well put together, especially considering they have so much to go through.
Okay. Personally, I really like this episode. I think that there was a lot of good, and just the how quickly we got into things. This really ramped up in a big way. That said, I have a few fundamental issues with this episode. I think that one, there's a bunch of things I'm going to talk about that are pretty obvious. Of like, we only have 5 episodes left after this, and there's a few things that I think that they spent some time on that went a little too long. Kind of similar to what I said last week about the Sam shit montage. Also, I think that the battle, to me, underscores probably the most fundamental problem I have with Game of Thrones. That being said, I'm just going to be kind of give a warning of I feel like I'm going to end up acting somewhat negative on this episode, especially compared to Cory. But I am not negative at all. I think that this was a phenomenal episode, and my negatives are me kind of griping at things that I think could have put this episode in the absolute upper echelon of television episodes. And so when if you feel like I'm being really negative and you're like, and then I give this a really good rating to it, there's a reason for that. I just want to say that up front. So let's get into our episode discussion. So last week we were kind of filling through it, but we kind of settled on this going kind of character and to some degree family to family, and that really worked. So I'm going to do that again. But we'll just start with whoever was first on screen. So first up, we start off in Dragonstone with Danny. So let's talk a little bit about Danny and all of Danny's allies. We're going to leave the final battle to the end, though, because that was sort of its own thing, and we'll talk about it when it gets there. The first thing I want to highlight, because the first scene we get is Dany discussing things with Varys, and twice in this episode they use the line "Queen of the Ashes," and I don't think we've heard that exact phrasing before, or at least since Varys used it to describe Littlefinger, about how like Littlefinger is like the most dangerous man in Westeros because he would be king of the ashes if he'd burn Westeros to the ground if he could be king of the ashes. And I think it's interesting that they're kind of tying that line together where sort of Dany is not going to be the kind of Littlefinger style machinations and schemes, and not going to be the mad king of just burning everything down, like trying to find like a middle ground in between the two. And I like that callback that they used.
Wait, did they not say that about Cersei? I feel like they did at some point.
They probably did. I distinctly remember Varys using the line to describe Littlefinger.
Yeah, for sure.
I absolutely loved Varys and Daenerys' interaction. It was perfect. It had the right amount of intensity. Every line and counterline was perfect. I think Varys had a phenomenal point, and Daenerys had a phenomenal point for distrusting him. And it's one of my top 3 highlights in this episode for me, honestly. And just seeing the clear people, like, it takes like someone very intelligent, and everyone in that room knows it, that she is not the Mad King. And that's why I love, and we'll get into it when we get over the Cersei, just how different people think, especially because people who have not been around Dany think she's just the Mad King 2.0. And these rumors that are going around are going against her. And it's just some phenomenal storytelling and bow wrapping for me.
Do they actually think she's not the Mad King? Because the Mad King wasn't mad the entire time, right? The Mad King turned mad after some like Lannister bullshit. I don't remember exactly.
Varys is the perfect example. Varys wouldn't be here if he wasn't sure that she was going to be a good ruler to the common people and not turn into like someone that's going to burn down Westeros.
But I feel like
you believe Varys 100% that he serves the realm. I mean, I don't disagree with it. I'm just saying you have to be careful with that.
Yeah,
no, there's always the underlining, but I think just his motivations are proven from season 1, and I think what he's saying is consistent with what he's been doing, and I do trust him just objectively from what I've heard.
Right, and I also think it was a tough position for him to be in, and I actually kind of found myself, like when I was watching it, kind of putting myself like in, I'm going to say Daenerys because I'm not going to refer to myself in the third person, say Dany. But when would Daenerys trust him? And I was kind of like, I wanted to say yes, and I think he did a kind of a good job of like giving his point of view, but also like admitting, like, yes, in some point I had to serve the realm, but when I made the decision, like he didn't want to say I'm 100% loyal because obviously that's not true, but he kind of had to like justify why he did what he did, as opposed to kind of making it look like, oh, I'm going to be loyal to you, of course. And especially I think what really resonated with me was when he said, or when she asked him rather, like if she, turns crazy or if she's not serving the people, to say something. And I think that really kind of tied all together, that like she knows that he could very well go behind her back and he might be doing it right now, but she wants him to like, and we'll have to see how trustworthy he is, but she wants him to actually call her out on it.
Yeah, I like that too. I really did like Varys' lines. Specifically, I really like that he was consistently using King Robert to describe Robert Baratheon, and kind of like that kind of like little bit of deference, kind of like the deference to the office, even if you don't respect the person who holds it. And also, I mean, I think that she did a pretty good thing in terms of like actually. I think that like what he's saying like makes a lot of sense and kind of plays on the idea of Dany seeing herself as a good and just queen and saying like, look, I'm going to serve you as long as you're just, just don't give me a reason to betray you. And I think that worked. I'm just not, I mean, keep in mind that this is still a spider, and I'm like still like not 100% sold on this whole I serve the realm, I have no personal interests whatsoever, because he's been doing a lot of stuff for a long time. He's been playing quite a long game here. I mean, we remember like he was talking about the Targaryens back in season 1 with Illyrio. Like this has been at least 7 years in the making, if not longer. So I'm still not 100% sure of like, oh yeah, Varys, he's just gonna serve the realm and he'll do whatever is best for the people.
Yeah, I don't trust shit from him at all. I mean, because like right? You never like, what's good about the books, right? Is you always get you get the POV of the character, but not only the POV, but you also get their thoughts on everything. So you know what people are thinking. You find out what Melisandre is actually thinking behind the whole like I'm a all powerful Red Priestess person. But like Varys never gets a POV and he always does skeevy shit, right? So like there's nothing in any of the books or the show that really proves what Varys' end game is, right? The only thing that possibly could show that is when he got like his balls cut off back in, when he was a slave. That's the only thing I can think of.
Well, here's the thing. If you guys, well, I'm not saying you guys are saying that he's going to betray them, but if you guys are right on the fact that he actually is playing one over, he's literally manipulating every main character on one side of it. You got Tyrion, who I'd argue is a really good judge of character. You got Daenerys, who's, trusting. I obviously didn't trust him at first, but now is choosing to trust him. You got everyone on that side about to get manipulated. And I think that hurts the overall narrative of the show. And I think I don't think it's something the writers would do. I think you got really good judges of character that are trusting Varys. And I think he really does mean what he says to Dany.
I think you misunderstand exactly what I mean by not trusting Varys. I don't think that he's going to betray Dany and is trying to sit on the Iron Throne himself. I'm just saying that him being 100% noble. I mean, this is him essentially saying that he's the most in terms of raw, almost heroism and what we would think of as a good person. This is kind of him as the best person in Game of Thrones. I serve the people. I have no self-interest. All I am going to do is do what's best for what I think is going to help the common people. And we've never had a character like that in Game of Thrones. We get a little bit of it with Jon, the last season and a half. I'm just saying, I'm not 100% sure that that's where he is. That maybe there's something more to what he's doing, something that he wants specifically himself, that we're not sure of yet. And I'm just. And to say Tyrion and Dany, good judge of characters, he did more or less save Tyrion's life. He shows up and brings Dany some very important allies. They don't, to some degree, they kind of are trusting him because he's been good to them. It's not like he's done anything that would, you could, has he risked his life for them? On some level, yes, but on some level, he's kind of the person who would be telling everyone else if he was betraying them. So on some level, no, I don't know. I don't want to get bogged down into a Varys discussion here, but
Varys is one of the more interesting characters in the entire show, though. I think.
Yeah,
because nobody knows.
Mm-hmm.
He's on a level. I don't know. At least I feel like he's on the same level of Littlefinger. I'm always kind of I'm just consistently skeptical. I don't know.
Yeah, that's I would agree with that.
He was the one Littlefinger was giving the Chaos as a Ladder speech to, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I've always thought they were the two main players of the entire thing. Everybody else was pawns, sort of.
I think you could make that argument.
It would be kind of cool if Littlefinger is the Chaos and then Varys is kind of the opposite. I don't know.
The straight foil to Littlefinger.
Yeah.
Yeah, I could see that. It would make some degree of sense. To some degree, you see them just playing this giant chess match. So next, for Dany, she meets up with Mel, and I would say this was kind of the first scene where we saw. It's more with Tyrion's interactions, but I really kind of noticed we're at season 7 now, and all of these characters have interacted with each other, and there's all of these different alliances that have been there. Where you're talking about Stannis Baratheon, who we haven't obviously haven't seen in a season and a half because he's gone. The fact that Tyrion and Jon have interacted with each other in season 1, there's all these weird little things, and you start to realize the cross pollination, and you're oh yeah, this is this world is not as large, especially when you're the lords, as we sometimes think, especially early on when it seemed like there were 5 or 6 different very fundamentally different plots. It's it now honestly feels like one plot, and everything's kind of moving together.
Yeah, this is the season where everything comes together, right, and everything goes to Superdrive.
Yeah, they only have 12 more episodes
left
total. So they've really, they gotta moving along.
I also really like how the battle lines are drawn. Like you see now where everyone's side is, and
Yeah, like the scene in Dragonstone when they have the map and everything like that. Yeah.
and like nothing, there's no stone left unturned. Everyone is where they're supposed to be right now. So like, except for maybe you would argue like Arya, who we'll talk about that later, but like every character now is doing something major to the plot. Nothing is isolated anymore. As you said, Mark, everything is now just engrossed in one story, and that's what it's been so long. It's like this is so long in the making. It's such a refreshing breath of air. Most shows we take this for granted, but Game of Thrones paced it so well where every scene you see people who interact with each other that you've never seen before. It's like a whole new world for you.
Now, specifically on the things that Mel says, I know they play the little fun game with the genders and stuff, but can we all agree that Mel 100% believes Jon Snow is Azor Ahai?
Yes, but that's not what their argument was about.
I think it's actually believes that both of them aren't they?
I mean, I don't know. It
combined?
felt to me like she was trying to like skirt around the question when she said like, prophecies can be like complicated and hard to read. It kind of felt like she wanted to be like, well, I believe Jon Snow is actually the savior, but you have dragons.
Yeah.
If
we need your help?
What if though it's both? What if it's the uniting of fire and ice, Jon Snow and Daenerys? That is the prophecy, and it's not singular prince and prince. It's both. It's prince and princess, and that's what she's trying to put them both together.
Yes, and
does she believe that? That's the thing.
I'm not arguing whether it's the truth or not. I'm saying did Mel makes a statement. She asks like Mel like what is your role to play, and then she says you and another. And it felt to me when they were specifically having the little like gender of prince who was promised conversation that they were trying to almost like Mel was skirting around the like, well, I actually believe it's somebody else, but you're pretty cool and I was banished from there, so does the prophecy of Azor Ahai actually matter? Like, do I think that it's going to be the deciding factor? Probably not. I think it's going to be a lot more complicated than that. It's just Mel definitely believes in the prophecy. And it did feel to me a little bit like she was hinting more towards Jon than Dany.
I think she just knows that she has to kill White Walkers somehow. And dragons are pretty good at that.
Probably, yeah.
Because she had, remember she had her whole faith tested last season, and it was like, what am I even doing here if Stannis dies?
Yeah.
Then she realized, wait a second, I can bring people back to life? All right. Okay, we're all right here.
Snow back to life. Yay. Yeah. Next up, we get one of the best scenes, and I know Danny has a lot to say, so I'll let Danny kind of take the lead on this, on Danny's War Council and why you thought it was amazing.
Yeah. No, I mean, well, I said in the other chat, but I'll say really quickly. One thing that I really love about Game of Thrones is kind of how it feels very real-time strategy to me. And I love this scene because I think it's a little hard at times to know. And whenever I watch this with Mark, I'm always like, where is this? And like, what's going on? So
I think it's kind of have this next to my TV, Clash of Kings.
Yeah, Mark has, exactly.
So I can pull up, that very important map.
And I think this really kind of like was a great way, especially I didn't read the books, so I'm not always, well, no one's on Mark's level, but I think it was really kind
Chris is way ahead of me in terms of
Chris is way ahead. All right.
And kind of Cory is on that level too.
Yeah. No, but anyway, but for me, especially as someone who didn't read the books, I think this was like a really good way to see like where everything stands. So for Dorne, obviously now, well, at that point the Sand Snakes were in control, and it's like, okay, they're allied with Daenerys and Olenna, who I am talking as right now. And I think it's cool to kind of see, at least for me when I watched this episode, I kind of like was seeing the whole map, and Cersei controls 3 of the kingdoms, and just kind of understanding where everything is. And I think I want to know for you guys, like when you were watching this scene, were you like thinking about what could go wrong, or were you thinking like were you guys I don't know if any of the 3 of you were thinking about like how it's going to play out from there, kind of like as like a foreshadowing scene?
I used to think about the logistics of how to get people from place to place, but everybody teleports, so I kind of stopped.
Yeah.
Traveling, taking the entire Dornish army up with the boats. I mean, sure, but there's also the Tyrell army that's like right next to King's Landing. You didn't need to take everyone on the boat, but sure. Also, Lannisport's in the complete other side of, Lannisport, or no, Castle Rock is in the complete other side of the continent. I'm like, wait, how are they gonna get there? And and then I was just thinking, like, wait, where's the Dothraki and all this? Like, whatever. But you know what? It was a cool scene. Doesn't matter, right?
So there are 100,000 Dothraki on Dragonstone right now.
They're just rampaging through. Yeah.
Actually, what is there to rampage? It's an island.
No, they're not, because most of the army's still in the ships, right? If I was a Dothraki, I'm like, I hate water. I gotta get off this goddamn boat, and they haven't let them off the boats yet. They're just sitting there, probably puking their brains out.
Well, to be fair, I saw. So everyone says that Westeros is the size of like a little bit smaller than Africa. So pretend Westeros is the size of Africa. Dorne is towards the south of pretty much where South Africa is. Maybe a little like west of that, and then where Dragonstone is about northwest, I believe. And the sail from there to there, it's not that long. It's maybe a few days.
Yeah, I guess it's true. If they go around, yeah. But I was just thinking, it wasn't. I don't know. Yeah.
No, unfortunately, I think that they've kind of distances have stopped really mattering as they've tried to streamline the show. Because keep in mind, we had a whole season of Arya and the Hound walking from King's Landing to River Run, which is not that far. And now it's like, hey, you need to get someone somewhere. You're there tomorrow.
Time doesn't matter anymore to me.
Yeah, which is good because the times that can get a little bit drawn out. So there are two specific discussions I want to have regarding this scene here. First, the plan of Tyrion's entire plan here, and obviously we know things are not going to go particularly well once we get to the end of the episode, but just from a pure strategy standpoint, I love seeing Tyrion kind of trying his hand at tactics, to use his word, and kind of because he'd always said he doesn't know anything about warfare. He's more of the ruling a city, being getting
he saved the Blackwater. He won the Blackwater.
That's true. He did, and he's done a lot of things. So it's nice to see some of him doing on this side. But what do you guys think about just on paper the plan of sieging King's Landing, sending the Unsullied to Casterly Rock, all that stuff? Cory, I know you have a few things, so why don't you kick this one off?
I think it's brilliant. The thing I love about Tyrion is it wasn't just him putting a military plan in action. He's playing psychiatry. He knows Cersei. He knows the people of King's Landing. He knows that if the Unsullied and the Dothraki go, it's gonna completely illegitimize Dany's claim and just make him look like an outside invasion. And the Dothraki have never been in Westeros before, and I don't think the Unsullied have either. And just him just coming to that conclusion, and then you see in the very next scene that's actually how Cersei is spinning it. Brilliant, amazing, it's phenomenal. I love, and then the idea of sending them Casterly Rock to unroot the Lannisters and their wealth. Brilliant. I think it was a perfect move. Obviously, it gets unrooted later on, but Tyrion cannot see that coming. I think it was the right move, and if it went through, I think it would have been very successful.
Yeah, they stole all the ships, didn't they?
Yeah, I think so.
He magically made more ships. He put a reactor on the barracks. What? Sorry. Got one StarCraft joke in there. Sorry, guys.
Mm-hmm. I agree. I thought it was good. I like the plan. And I like the kind of going the idea of taking the rock. I like because we saw how much taking Winterfell kind of messed up the Starks' plans and caused all this uncertainty in terms of what they were going to do. So I kind of like the same idea here. This would kind of potentially force maybe Jaime to have to go back or to send an army back, and then just kind of shows their weakness. I think it works. I also think that there is something to also Tyrion taking back his ancestral home, and theoretically the Rock is his by rights, kind of. I mean, I don't know if
it should be.
Jaime has technically renounced his Kingsguard-ness yet.
I don't think you can't. You're not supposed to.
No, he's still he's the Kingsguard still to Cersei, to the Queen.
Yeah. So I guess So then, by that logic, he is Tyrion. The Rock's his Tyrion's. Yeah. I mean. I wonder if he did take the Rock. Do you think some of the Lannister soldiers would follow him? Probably not, right?
I don't think every Lannister thinks Tyrion killed Tywin, which is obviously He did.
And even before that, I feel like there was a lot of Tyrion being an outsider, and
Tyrion's the imp to every Lannister.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Like,
you're right, but I'm just saying, like, if he takes the rock and is like, all right, here's your choice. Either I, uproot your family and kick them out, or you join me.
Well, if you put it that way.
I mean,
if a guy's got a knife to your throat, I mean, it's...
Probably. All right, so, and then the other discussion I want to have on this is Olenna. So, Danny, you talked a little bit, you might have actually been on the accidental first version, but about how much you love the Olenna stuff. And I want to lay out, I understood why Olenna was the way she was, but I kind of chapped a little bit at, like, how much it was so clear to me that all she is out for is revenge, and she has not only no loyalty to Dany, but, like, she doesn't even really care if they succeed. She just wants to kill Cersei, because her advice actually makes no sense when you come right down to it. One, like, burning the city to the ground is not going to endear the people to her. And also, like, when she talks about how, like, oh, the people loved Marjorie, but Marjorie was still beaten. It's not like the people rose up against Marjorie. Like, yes, Cersei killed her, but that's not, like, it's not like, oh, you should be jaded if the people need to fear you or you're going to lose. Like, if the people had feared Marjorie, she would have died exactly the same way when Cersei blew up the Sept. I mean, like, there was no, like, it to me is very clear to me, like, Olenna at this point is not thinking rationally. And I understand why. She's a grieving grandmother. You can't even, really begin to understand the depths of that pain.
Her
and, like,
entire
how much
line
she loses.
Exploded in an instant.
Yeah, she lost her son and both of her grandchildren. But I'm kind of like, okay, Danny, it might be time to be like, all right, Olenna, I'll listen to you, but, like, I'm not really going to take what you say to heart, because...
I don't know, though, because at the same time, if you want to compare that to Cersei, I mean, Cersei hasn't been thinking rationally for a while, and look where she is.
But the thing with Cersei, I mean, yes, she's on the throne.
A lot of
yes, things are going to start going well, but, like...
Yeah.
Do you want to be in Cersei's position right now? Do you think she's in a good position, like, long-term?
Maybe, maybe not. You have to see where things play out. I mean...
Well, that's not fair to say, Mark, because, like, Cersei... out of every character in Game of Thrones, has probably had the best most of the time. Like, other than watching all the
I mean, think about how many years she's either been in power directly or indirectly. My point is, she's had, she's done stuff right. Like, I don't think.
No, obviously she has. I'm not saying. What I'm saying though is, Olenna's specific point is, like, the people loved Marjorie, and it got her nothing, and, like, it didn't matter. Cersei ended up winning. So I understand, like, yes, there's on some level you can't be, like, you have to, like, show some degree of strength, and you can't just be, a pushover and let, other lords walk all over you. But the idea of sieging King's Landing and, like, slowly starving them out to, rather than raining dragonfire down upon the people, like, I'm not, from a purely, like, if Dany wants to be queen, I don't see the idea of burning everything to the ground going that well. I mean, yeah, she'll probably conquer Westeros, but, like, long term, that's not going to be a particularly good, like, strategy, I feel like. And I'm seeing Olenna, like, I'm seeing this person who is, I don't think she is, if you actually play out the way she's thinking, is going to work. Because like you say, yeah, Cersei is queen, but long term, I think Cersei is in a lot of trouble, and maybe things will turn around and maybe she'll figure some things out. But, like, I don't think that the blowing up killing everyone from a long-term perspective was a good thing for Cersei.
No, I don't think that decision. But what I mean is, think about how many seasons Cersei's been doing as Cersei does, and she's still in a good position. I don't mean specifically that.
She's in a very precarious position.
Yeah.
But what I'm saying is that, like, if you play out the other side of this, if Cersei was not as, she was, maybe things could have, maybe if she doesn't, allow the faith to, I mean, I don't technically know if she armed the faith in the show, but, like, if she did in the books, like, if she didn't arm the faith and didn't, do all of the things that she was doing and kind of just allowed Tommen to take the throne, like, she could have been the, Queen Mother for a very long time, had a lot of influence. I mean, she wouldn't have been in the, had all of the power. But I feel like it's easy to look at from Elena's position, it's easy to look at things and say, yeah, be jaded. Just, you should just go for it and just burn everything and, 100% ends justify the means. I just don't think that's entirely true in this world.
No, that's a fair point. I mean, I don't say necessarily that I agree with her on burning everything to the ground. I just mean her. I think her as a character, and now obviously now that her granddaughter's died, she's in a little bit of a different place than she was last season. But I don't know. I still think she's gonna. I don't know. I don't really know what, but I still think she has a few more tricks up her sleeve.
I also don't think she's trying to.
With Randall Tarley.
I don't think she's trying to give Danny good advice.
No, I agree. I don't think so either.
I don't think I think she's just jaded. She is miserable. She saw her entire family die. She outlived her entire family pretty much, being her age, and she just doesn't care. She
wants to kill Cersei, and that's it. And if that's all, that's all that matters. And she's not trying to be like, Danny, this is good advice for you to become queen. This is, Danny, go kill Cersei because she's a terrible human being.
Yeah, she's just entirely in it for kill everyone. She's in pure fury mode.
Mm-hmm. So last but not least, within Danny's camp, we have the Grey Worm Missandei scene, which I think there's going to be some disagreement because I was talking about this with Cory before we started. And for me, I thought the scene went on a little bit too long. It took up, it really took up a long time. And also, it's interesting because this is really the first slow burn romance we've ever had on Game of Thrones. We've had a few kind of quote unquote true love stories, but a lot of them were very quick. Rob's romance where it happened over just a couple episodes. I mean, this has been kind of played out over a couple of seasons. I just feel like it's a little bit easy for, it's Danny's two former slave advisors, and of course they fall in love, and I don't know. It feels a little like storybook to me.
Feels a little shoehorned in for no reason. Yeah.
And also, I don't know. I mean, other than wanting to show Miss Sandy's boobs, I don't really know.
No.
I mean, I'm okay with it, but
it's not true. This was the most pure love I think I've seen in Game of Thrones. It was a slow burn. I'm okay with it happening. It was over multiple seasons. Just because they gave 10 minutes now to finish it up and wrap it up into a Nepo was completely understandable. It was not filler. It was not padding for the episode. It was them wrapping up an arc that's been going on for seasons now. So I don't know what you're saying, Mark.
I don't know why why the arc have to start?
Because it did. Okay, they established that she liked him, and Grey Worm liked her back. It was a slow burn, and you can't in real life. You don't say why are you attracted to him? I don't get it.
But this is a story.
It's fine if they love. It doesn't matter whether they love each other. They chose to spend screen time on this. They don't have to. And what I'm saying is, Game of Thrones is not about. We've never had love as a purely for love's sake as a thing in Game of Thrones. The only time we came close was Rob, and that was realistically there to serve a very important purpose of setting up this one of the probably the most important scene in the history of the show.
These are two people that are following Daenerys, that are two of her most closest, advisors and friends and whatnot. And they've been an important part to Daenerys' life, and they just happen to have their own little thing that adds an extra layer and dimension to each of them.
So you're arguing why they should be together. I'm fine with them being together. Let them be together. Did we need to spend the amount of time, not just in this episode, throughout the last couple of seasons, on what is essentially just pure romance exclusively for romance's sake?
I argue it's not for romance's sake. I argue it's to humanize them more.
I don't know.
Do you feel like if they didn't have this, you wouldn't have paid attention to those characters? I feel like I still care about those characters without this.
I do too.
Do you know?
They're both
yes.
Monotone, one-dimensional, unsullied, and I don't know. I
don't know. To me, they're both they're both interesting enough as to begin with. He's the voice of all the Unsullied, so he's a section of the army and section of her people, which is interesting. And she just is all the other slaves. I don't know. You don't need to hook them up for no reason to me. Also,
Like,
I'm still a little bitter that they killed off Barristan, and it could have used that time on Barristan. So yeah,
that's a fair point. I think that like I love their interactions with Tyrion like last season when like you kind of had Tyrion trying to turn them into real people and not like essentially purely working. I don't know. I thought if you really want to do what Cory's saying, like they could have kissed and that could have been the end of it. Like we didn't need the full everything.
But you did, because this is the last time they're going to see each other. So you're not going to see this ever again.
That.
What?
Why do you say that? You're unless you're 100% sure Grey Worm's going to die at Castle Rock.
No, but he's going. There's sure. This is Game of Thrones. I doubt Grey Worm's going to take Castle Rock. Daenerys is going to take the Iron Throne. They're going to be like a victory party, and then they're going to come to the King's Landing to make Daenerys queen, and then they're going to see each other in the distance and run and do like a cinematic hug across the room.
Can we have a Bollywood? We'll have a Bollywood scene where they like dance around a tree. That'd be great.
There you go. That'd be great.
I'm ready for that.
This is like no pun intended. I promise you.
We haven't had a musical episode yet.
Yeah.
This is like no pun intended. The climax of their relationship, like. This is what, like, whether you like it or not, they spent time on this.
Or not is the answer to that question.
What do you mean? Clearly,
you said whether you like it or not. I didn't like it. That's what I'm saying.
Okay, I'm not saying you have to like it. I'm saying they did it. They went all in on it.
No one's denying that they did it.
We're okay. Yeah.
But the thing is, I'm okay. This is not filler, and this isn't wasting time in an episode because it's something they've been doing in Game of Thrones. Unlike. I know everyone universally agrees the Samwell scene last episode was long, drawn out, and it was just there for humor's sake. This wasn't. This was there to wrap up something they've been talking about for over a few seasons.
All right, whatever. You can hear everyone's points.
What I definitely do think it is there for is to contrast all the shit that's happening, right? Like all the bad stuff that's happening. We'll have something nice going on, right?
I agree with that.
I think that's what it's for, but I don't know. I don't even think it was necessary.
Yeah.
To the point of making these characters more human, I don't think it was necessary. But
right, and I guess especially with the battle coming after it, it was kind of like all right, here's no one's dying right now.
Something else pretty ridiculous coming after it, which I didn't watch, so.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. I made Mark look away.
Yeah. Nice. Just as negative as I am, one thing I do want to say, I thought Grey Worm's performance itself was pretty incredible.
That actor, I love that actor.
He did so well. Miss Sandy was fine. I mean, whatever. But I thought he did like a really fantastic job. All right, so that's going to wrap up everything with Dany until the very end. So now let's move on to the Starks. So we get Jon and Sansa receiving the letter. And we get a little bit more of that, like all the relationships, the fact that, you forget, oh yeah, Tyrion and Sansa were married once. Like that kind of happened, which was kind of cool. And you're seeing that Jon is at least turning to Sansa for advice a little bit. But we'll talk about Jon and Sansa a little bit in a bit. But the real big thing is Arya saw Hot Pie again. I think that you could have taken a bet on that, and I thought the odds were pretty ridiculous. I don't remember exactly what they were, but that's pretty incredible.
Hot Pie is gonna sit the Iron Throne. No, he's gonna be hand of the king to Gendry.
No, yeah, he's Gendry's hand of the king, 100%.
Yeah.
It'll be, and then you've got Dolorous Edd as Lord Commander of the Night's Watch. Perfect. He's already there. Setting up all the characters to be where they need to be.
All the fan service, sort of.
Yeah.
Hi.
I was gonna say I love how much you can see Arya's world changing when she finds out about the Starks reclaiming Winterfell.
My family's not dead. Holy crap!
Like that was like everything on her face. Like you could tell, it's like, why would I go to Winterfell? The Boltons have it, and like, oh my god, like Jon Snow, like my brother's alive, and he retook Winterfell. Like you can just see it in her face. And I thought the moment when she turns the horse around was for me was the best part of the episode. I absolutely adored that scene. I thought like you could see her making a choice, and it was one of the first times this season so far that I was honestly didn't know what she was going to do. Mm-hmm. Like I really didn't know, and we kind of are getting to a point in Game of Thrones where you can kind of like tell how characters are probably going to like what they're going to do because like we've known these characters so well. And this was a moment where I really felt like I didn't know what she was going to do. I don't think she knew what she was going to do until she did it, and I adored that.
I wish I was better with like the music in the show, because a lot of times like I find out people like they hide the what's it called, the Faceless Man theme, and then it merges into the Stark theme when she turns around or something like that. I want to know if that happened. I can't tell. My ears aren't good enough.
Glad you brought up the music.
Why?
Because I'm going to annoy Cory.
Why did you, Chris? Why did you do that?
I'm going to annoy Cory to no
What's
end.
wrong with the music?
The
You
music,
don't want to know what he.
the music was great. We got the Stark theme, but there was one note that felt so much right out of the Avatar and Legend of Korra score.
Wow. Okay.
And I've listened to it 3 times, and every time I've heard it. And Cory doesn't want me to talk about this, but I also love. So just
okay. All right.
to all of my Avatar fans, listen to that scene and see if you can hear a little bit of Avatar in that music.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, Cory. Another thing that I think we really throughout both episodes now, the use of maps, they've been really pretty, like, they've been using the Westerosi map a lot, and getting to see it here with Jon once he gets Sam's letter, and with his decision to go down to Dragonstone. I like that they kind of keep showing us the map and like in these kind of tactics, like kind of meetings and discussions, like, okay, here's because it makes sense that they'd actually be looking at a map.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I also feel like that's pretty necessary, especially just to set the stage for, as we said before, there's gonna be so much that's gonna happen the next 2 seasons. I feel like it's important to like put it all in place before like every single episode's something crazy. You know what I mean? To kind of like line everything up first before all the dominoes fall.
Yeah, because I think in previous seasons people just didn't know where things were happening, like at all.
Yeah, I mean
it's
hard.
complicated.
Like,
yeah,
especially if you didn't read the books, it's hard.
Yeah,
like
it's hard to tell.
You know, like maybe like 70% of the time what's going on.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I do think it's important to note that Jon only decides to go to Dragonstone once he finds out about the dragon glass. Like they made it clear it was like a couple of days since he got the letter from Tyrion, and kind of showing that like for Jon, every decision he's making is about like how do we defeat the Whites, and like that's it. Which kind of brings me to the big conversation I want to have regarding the Starks and specifically Jon, and that's, do you guys get the sense that he's treating the North a lot like the Night's Watch? Like it feels to me
in terms of like how the Night's Watch puts like
he still has the same goal. I think.
Well, puts the Night's Watch in front of everything else, and like we don't really care your personal.
Even more than that,
the defense of the realm.
It feels like he's acting more like Lord Commander than a king.
How so?
A couple of things. I mean, I think that the way when he's talking through like this decision, and I know that yes, a king can kind of on some level do like make the choice that he wants, but I think that when you're Lord Commander, you're putting everything through the lens of like, how can I protect the realm? How can I defend the wall? As opposed to like, this is my kingdom and I have to be looking out for the kingdom. I also thought, I thought it was very deliberate that when he, at the end of the conversation, when he says to, he's kind of saying, all right, Sansa, you're going to be in charge, that he says the North is yours, which is exactly what he says. Like what you say on the wall, like, okay, you have the wall, or, you have Castle Black. It felt very much like for Jon, this is, and that is his leadership style. That's like how he's learned leadership. He hasn't, yes, he grew up in a castle, but he was never trained to be Lord of Winterfell. He was like, not like he grew up understanding to be a lord. Like his leadership is coming in like being Lord Commander. And I just feel like when you're Lord Commander and like, all right, everyone's going to disagree with you, and very similar scene to like when he was saying we need to let the wildlings through the gates, because like that's, without that, they're going to join the Night King's army, and we're all like, it's going to be even harder for us to survive. We need the men. We need the manpower. I don't really care about, like, to some degree, the long-term bickering that's gone on between these houses. It's basically, look, we need their help. We're going to get their help. We're going to do it. And it kind of feels like a similar situation here, where it's like, if you're looking at this from the king's perspective, you weigh options differently than, look, there's Dragonglass there. Dany could help us stop the Whites. I'm going. That's what's best. All right, Sansa, you're the best person in charge. You're in charge. There you go.
I have a few things to say about that. To your first point, where it's like he's acting like he's trying to protect the realm and the wall versus his own people and his kingdom. I think those two are one and the same. If the White Walkers make it through the wall, the entire North is at risk. So I think both of those go hand in hand for him. So that's not really something I would say is kind of relevant, if that makes sense to you. But I do agree with you on the point where everyone seemed to be in universal agreement that going to Dragonstone was a really bad idea. And the only thing Jon said that really shut them up was, oh, don't worry, Sansa's still going to be here. And then everyone just seemed to be like, oh, okay, that's fine. And that's where I'm like, why does it make a difference to anyone else in the North that Sansa Stark's going to be there? They want Jon to be there. So that's where I was kind of like,
But I think that what it comes down to is whether or not, because my point being, like, if you're treating this as though, like, Lord Commander, like, as Lord Commander, designating someone else to be in charge is something you do. Like, that's the way leadership structures work. There's you can't be in everywhere at once. Sometimes you have to go do something and you designate someone to be in charge. That's a pretty common occurrence. As a king, it's that's very different. Like, you don't, yes, theoretically, like, Robert goes hunting and Ned is kind of the hand of the king and he's sort of in charge, but like, it's a very different world than the kind of military style, next man up, you're in charge, all right, you're in charge, as opposed to kind of the I'm king, I'm going to kind of have a small council which will execute my way. It does feel very different to me. And I think it's indicative of the way Jon is treating the situation in the short term.
Yeah.
Mostly because I think this episode's a lot about, like, short-term thinking versus long-term thinking. Like, Tyrion's kind of in the, okay, what's the long game? Yes, short-term, I could attack King's Landing and win, but long-term, what's the best thing for me to do? And this kind of feels a little bit, somewhat opposite. Obviously, short-term being like, we need to stop the Whites because if we don't, we just all die, and that's that. But it's kind of like, for Jon, it's like, all right, we need Dany's help. Let's go get it. And if I die in the process, well, if I didn't get her help, I was probably going to die anyway, so whatever. Like, I feel like that's kind of the opposites there.
I thought it was more of which evil do I have to deal with right now? Right?
Yeah.
Like, there's a whole bunch of undead people coming rather than, I don't really care about the southern people,
Mm-hmm.
Southern army.
And he is the only one who's here who's seen it.
Yeah, he's the only one who's actually seen it, yeah. Besides, Sam.
Well, Sam's not there.
Yeah.
So then we go down into the crypt. Can someone just kill Littlefinger? Like, I
don't know what purpose he has now. He's kind of just in the corner chilling.
Sansa. That's literally his one purpose.
He's trying to slide in those DMs, man.
Yeah.
Good. I don't know.
He's still scheming. I don't know.
Oh, obviously.
Yeah,
he's trying to figure out what. Yeah.
Yeah.
You think Sansa could, like, I don't know. I'm trying to figure out if Sansa's actually gonna use Littlefinger or just kill him. I can't figure it out yet.
I think it could be a little bit of both. I think that also Arya coming north could have an impact on this too, because I feel like on some level Arya can kind of, like, as a little bit of the outsider, because she's been so gone for so long, be like, This guy is clearly not on our side. Needle done. But I don't know.
There's a lot of things about this possible, like, meetup between Jon and Daenerys that's gonna, like, could go crazy, right? Because Davos is going with him. He's gonna see Melisandre there, who they're gonna see Melisandre there. Be like, wait a second, you killed Shireen, blah blah all that stuff, and then also Tyrion's gonna see Jon there, and Tyrion knows that Littlefinger betrayed his father, so he's gonna tell him that. I don't know. There's a lot of weird things that could happen soon.
Yeah, definitely.
A lot of awkward reunions,
Mm-hmm. Yes. So finally, we have the Arya and semi-Nymeria scene, which I was a little bit like, okay, do we really need to troll us like that, guys? Like, I don't know. It was fine. It wasn't that big a deal, and it wasn't. At least they didn't hold that beat too long. But I was like, I know.
I believe it was a pretty quick
She'll be back.
I think so too. I mean, the question is, like, is Arya Orc? Like, we don't in the show. We really don't know.
Yeah.
In the books,
in the books, everyone's a Orc.
Yes. Oh, I know.
Except for
that's
Sansa,
the thing.
I guess. But
yeah, we don't. Well, yeah, probably not. Maybe Sansa's not a Stark.
Wasn't there a scene actually in season, like, 2 or 3 where Robb was warged into his wolf?
Yeah, I think there was a scene where, like, he was in the first person of Grey Wind, right? I think.
Yeah.
Like, walking around.
It either was or it was heavily implied. Like, it was very heavily implied that Robb could work into
Grey
Wind.
It was Grey Wind's POV. He killed a Lannister, and then, like, the next shot is Robb's eyes opening or something.
Yeah.
I think something like that blatant.
We definitely know Bran. We definitely know. I think
Really?
John
I
is
didn't
working
know
to Ghost, right?
Bran was.
Yeah, well, maybe not.
Bran's got the cheat codes.
Yeah. And now, so that'll wrap up the Starks. Now we get into the Lannisters. I really enjoyed the way Cersei was here. I liked her very much, kind of not sugarcoating everything and just kind of playing the, okay, I'm your only hope to stop the Dothraki and the Unsullied. Support me because I am not using foreigners. Y'all are racist.
Yeah, I'm not using foreigners.
Yeah, that seemed pretty obvious.
Yeah.
Well, even if you don't like
Dothraki.
to, yeah.
Taking our gerbs.
The only thing I didn't really like was like Qyburn's like, we're working on a solution. I was like, I kind of felt like if I'm Randall Harley, like, who the fuck are you to say, oh, we're just gonna stop the dragon? Like, that felt so like, well, don't worry about the dragons, those things that, have never been stopped in the history of the world and are going to kill all of you. I'm just this guy, and I found a solution.
It's going to be
that did sound very generic.
Yes.
Like, we're looking towards a problem. We're still resolving this issue. Please contact IT support.
Yes.
Yeah. Ongoing effort.
Yeah.
But he's usually right, though. It's not like he got the green fire back.
But they do not know that.
Sure.
Like, I understand if this was like the small council or something, and Cersei, like, she said the problem, and he was like, "Don't worry, my queen, I'm working on a solution." Fine, Cersei would believe her. But like, why does Randall Tarley give a shit if Qyburn's like, "Oh yeah, that thing, don't worry about it"?
I don't think you say don't worry about it, but you're saying like we're in. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know.
I thought it was a little silly to me. On the other part, Cory, you have anything you want to say? Because I know you really like the Cersei scene.
I thought this was the most queen-like she ever came across. Like, every
I agree.
point, even from, I don't even think Cersei thinks she's lying to just manipulate her people. I think she's like 100% sure everything she's saying is true, and who can blame her? Like, these rumors are probably sound exactly what they sound like, that she was cruel across the sea, she killed all those people. Everything she said was true, and like, I think she actually believes what she says too. That's what I liked it so much about it. And like, even Tyrion was like, the lords hate her. Well, she literally just said everything to make the lords' minds go to rest, because I think she right there was the best she was ever come across, like, just as her wanting to actually rule. Like, if that makes any sense to you.
No, I agree. I thought Cersei was really good there, and I thought she did a good job of sort of playing the one card that she had left to play, and sort of using it to the best of her advantage.
Do they know that she killed everyone at the sept?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
And then I really like Jaime kind of following it up with Randall Tarley and sort of the like, we're seeing more and more of his ability with diplomacy, which I find kind of interesting that like you had Jaime this episode really just talking through the diplomatic means with Randall Tarley, and then you had Tyrion kind of like designing a war plan. I thought that was an interesting like juxtaposition between those two, that like the schemer is now kind of leading an army, and Jaime is now kind of doing the kind of backroom dealing.
That's true. I didn't think about that actually.
What I like too is when Jaime first comes back and sees what Cersei did last season, like, he was like, whoa, and like it looked like they were sowing seeds. But right now, I'm not saying it's going to be like this all season, but right now Jaime is 100% behind Cersei, and I think Jaime works best when he's fully behind the cause, because everyone there in that room believes what Cersei said was true, and how can you blame them? And I think Jaime's included on that.
He's a knight in shining armor, and he's someone who will devote himself. I agree.
Also, he doesn't really have a choice, does he? He can't go against. There's two Lannisters left. He's like, well. Yeah,
I know. But I mean, we'll see. I mean, I'm sure if Tyrion's there, that loyalty will be put to the test.
I do think he's starting to see the chaos that is Cersei's brain right now.
Yeah.
Slowly.
I enjoy that we still get callbacks to the Red Wedding. And I mentioned that, I mean, we did get it with Randall Tarley, with a little line through line there, but I just like how much, like, a scene that obviously is like one of the most iconic scenes in television is also a huge deal narratively within this story. That the fact that they butchered all of these people was unexpected. Not just, oh yeah, of course it was unexpected because they killed off a bunch of main characters, but also like, no, breaking guest rights was a huge deal, and like people are still like Randall Tarly is still like on some level holding against the Lannisters the fact that they, you know, were part of this plot to break guest rights, and like that's still ringing true 4 seasons later. That I really love.
Mm-hmm. Do you think Tarleys are swapping sides? They jumping, or are they not?
I think Randall Tarly. I don't know. I could see him waiting this one out a little bit.
Just sitting on his stockpile of army.
I don't think he has any reason to do anything. Like just kind of like, all right. Yeah. I mean, it depends a lot on the way things go and whether or not Olenna calls the banners and they're gonna force it. But like, let's say there isn't a.
I'm assuming she did, right? No.
Probably, I don't know, because it seemed like they weren't mobilized yet because Tyrion was like, well, go get your army, go bring it to King's Landing.
No. Where was she actually at this point? She was on the boat.
Dragonstone.
Right? Yeah. She's still at Dragonstone? Okay.
I have no idea.
Well, she was on the boat, so yeah.
Yeah.
No, because they were going to Sunspear, not to Highgarden.
They had a separate boat. They went that way.
Yeah. So the final scene, we now go into the crypts beneath, or whatever you want to call it, the basement of the Red Keep. We see the dragon skulls. First, I thought the skulls looked pretty amazing. Like that whole room I thought was really well designed set wise. But that said, I thought that scene was really, really weird. One, a large spear shooter felt like such a pedestrian answer.
Yeah,
like,
right.
Oh my God, we're gonna
beat
the dragons. We're gonna get a big spear. Like that's it.
I'm on board with it.
I don't know how.
Did you watch The Hobbit? Actually, you shouldn't have watched The Hobbit. Never mind. Don't watch The Hobbit.
Also, I don't know how they're going to hit a flying dragon with that. I don't know how they are planning on reloading it. And then also the test I thought was so stupid because they shoot it through the eyes. There's no like.
Yeah,
what did that prove? They shot it through a hole in the skull.
They shot it through a skull that's been sitting in the basement for 20-something years, or how many years? I don't know, 20 years.
No,
hundreds of years. No, it was in the basement.
300 years.
It was in the basement for 20 years, and then
but
it was alive hundreds of years ago.
Yeah, but also they didn't even shoot it through the bone. They just shot it into the eye. Like that didn't prove anything.
Don't worry, we got this, guys.
I know they wanted the cool shot of like the arrow coming out of the eye to tie this into other things, Cory, but like. I don't know. It felt like that everything with Qyburn this episode felt really weird.
Qyburn's always weird though. When no, but weird?
Not in like Qyburn's fucked up and like bringing like the mountain back to life.
Just like out of character.
Just like I don't really agree. Like this doesn't impress me. If I was Cersei, I'd be like, really? This is what you brought me?
I gotta fight 3 full-grown dragons.
Like I could have come. Like I could have come up with that.
All the blacksmiths have been working day and night to give you this.
I honestly thought when they went down there it was going to be the horn. Like, I found the horn or like something like something that was like deep and it's like, oh no, it's a large spear shoot. It's a large crossbow.
Yep.
Yeah, but at the same time with just the skulls, like what else? Even if he had something more powerful that could like pierce through dragon scales or whatever, but like what would he demonstrate that on?
I understand that there wasn't like any good
like
way to
maybe
do it.
It was like I don't know if it was supposed to be like, oh, like if you shoot it in the eye. I kind of felt it was more of a like see how powerful it was.
I just think like a weapon was kind of a weird thing to show. Like
it was weird, but yeah.
Like just a random giant crossbow. Like I feel like he's a sorcerer, man. Basically, he could do more stuff. He's a necromancer.
Like you brought the mountain back to life. You couldn't have gotten.
You couldn't do anything better.
And like I don't think we should enchant the
fireballs out of your hands. I don't know.
But it could have been a little better than like a big crossbow.
Yeah. Hey, I mean, but the thing about the crossbow is it kind of I just thought about the connection of was it Littlefinger who gave Joffrey the crossbow that he killed what's her name with?
Yeah. I guess.
Got another crossbow for king/queen.
Oh well, is she gonna mutilate some? If she shoots it through a whore, that'll be entertaining.
Yeah, right. She'll shoot through a horse or something. I don't know. Something bigger.
So the last place we are going to go before we hit the seas is Old Town. one of the most ridiculous scenes that I 100% didn't watch. I didn't see any of it.
You didn't watch it? Did you really just close? Like you close your eyes, or you walk out of the room?
No, I walked away. I
told Mark I was like, Mark, go away.
I was like, I'm not watching someone get flayed. I don't need to see that. Although it did give me a one bit of pause. You know, if Ramsey was alive, this would have been a better punishment for him. Like,
yeah.
It's your job to flay the grayscale, guys.
God. Yeah,
Ramsey would love it. Yeah.
I was eating food during that.
Mark, is this what happens if you go through the easy pass lane?
Yep,
Yes,
that's happened.
agreed.
And then they actually you got the ordering wrong. No, you didn't get the ordering wrong. They transitioned into the pie
Into
scene
the
after.
pies. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Pretty seamless, actually.
Yeah.
Didn't this come right after the sex?
No, right after the sex. Yeah. Oh yeah, yeah. Because what happened was, the sex happened, and then the next shot was the books shaped in a V and a hand in between them.
Yeah. Is
They're so clever.
Game of Thrones is so
like
subtle
they
sometimes.
like to make these stupid cuts recently. I don't know. I'm not sure how I feel about those actually.
Sometimes they're a little too on the nose for me.
There's a little too much.
Yeah. Just as a quick aside, I cannot get over how Slughorn he is. Like, literally, they're like, you are Professor Slughorn, and now you're teaching Samwell Tarly. Like, he is 100%
he's in a library.
exactly the same.
Yeah.
He's in a library. He's like, has some secrets that are too dangerous for the main character to hear. Like, 100%. He is Professor Slughorn.
True.
Is there anything you'd like to say about this? Because I have nothing else to say.
So remember when he was saying like I'm writing a history of like the wars after Robert's Rebellion or whatever, right?
Yeah.
And he said like that's not a good name. I need a better name. What do you?
A Song of Ice and
Is
Fire.
he making a Song of Ice and Fire? Because that's what people were saying that on Reddit. I'm like I guess. Like Samwell is actually writing this book. I can see it.
I guess, but I don't. It's a little. It seems a little too clean for me.
I mean, people have said for a long time Samwell is George R. R. Martin inside the book.
That's all right. I could see it. All right, that's a fair theory.
Yeah.
That's a fair theory.
He must have had a really bad relationship with his dad.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
So I guess about the grayscale thing, just like the fact that I don't know, like that Jorah's kind of like when he said like, "Oh yeah, I knew your father," he just like he didn't give a shit.
Well, yeah,
Do
but
you think Jorah's gonna take the black? Because that's like what Gior's last wish was for him. Like, remember when he dies, he says like, "I tell my son that I forgive him. I want him to take the black, come back home."
yeah, I think that could make sense.
Or was
But
that on the
I
show?
mean,
That was only in the book. I can't remember now.
I think it was only in the books, but it's possible that like he's going to like let's say he gets cured, goes to Dragonstone, and then it's like John's there, and he's like, "Oh, I knew I knew your Lord Commander. Like we need someone new at the wall. Like go up there and defend it." I don't know. Possible.
The other thing I saw that someone was talking about on Reddit, which I think would be amazing. So remember the books, Victarion gets like a fucking like volcano arm, whatever it is.
Oh yeah.
Like, I wonder if like because of this, right, his left arm becomes entirely dragon glass or something. I don't know. Bear with me. But then he gets like a dragon glass arm and he becomes like a superhero where he just starts punching White Walkers with his left hand and just murdering them.
That could be kind of cool.
I want this show to go like off the rails a little bit. Like Daenerys will have like 3 dragons, a Iron Fist, Dragon Glass Fist dude. You know, that's what I want.
If we're gonna go off the rails, though, we need Clegane Ball. Like if we're going off the rails, Clegane Ball is the first off the rail. We need some dubstep up here.
I could find a drop, but we'll do it later.
Yeah. All right. So the final thing, obviously, is the final battle. Now, I have a lot I want to talk about this final battle, but before I do that, I'll let you guys say what you think about it because I've been kind of giving my initial thoughts on everything first. So why don't you guys each give me how you feel about this battle, and then I will say how I feel, and we'll talk about it.
Who wants to go first?
All right, I'll go first just because I talked this with Mark yesterday, but I actually thought, I mean, definitely I don't think anyone has any objections that it was just brilliantly filmed and it was really cool. I don't know if any of you guys played Assassin's Creed.
No.
Yep.
Yeah, it kind of felt like, but I mean, it was like that, like the thrill from like playing that, especially Black Flag, but like so much more. I mean, just the amount that they were able to capture with all people jumping on board and the fighting, I thought that was brilliant. But in terms of even where it plays into the story, I kind of thought it was necessary in terms of showing, we opened up the scene with, we opened up the episode with the maps and the strategizing, and I think it kind of had to show and almost start off that, like, things aren't going according to plan. And obviously nothing has the entire show. But I think it was kind of necessary to show, like, now that Daenerys is in Westeros, like, this is going to be really, like, the first, like, shock. Like, no, it's not just going to be like, oh, she gets there, she has dragons, she wins. Like,
she can't keep winning.
Yeah, no, exactly. And I think it was necessary to show that.
She hasn't even started yet.
Well, I mean...
No, I know. I'm just making fun of you.
Yeah.
Sorry if I lost your train of thought.
No. I mean, that was it. Just...
Okay.
Yeah.
Cory, how are you wrong about this scene?
I think you know the answer already, Mark.
I know. I'm letting you say it out loud.
Love the Greyjoys. I'm one of my only friends that loved Theon back in like right when he was doing the things to Winterfell. Because I like the thing with Theon was I thought he was.
Wait, you liked him when he was an asshole?
But here's the thing: he wasn't an asshole.
Most
because...
people like him after he his redemption.
He was. He wasn't an asshole.
No.
He was an asshole for a reason.
Finish my statement. I said he wasn't just an asshole because like Ramsay was or Joffrey was. He was an asshole because the Greyjoys are very proud people, and his dad lost the battle, and he was given up as a ward, and he was disgraced by his family. He always felt out of place. So Theon doing what he did, I'm like, okay, sure. Now we got probably the best interpretation of a Greyjoy in Game of Thrones with Euron. He did the campiest and coolest attack, the Greyjoy Civil War, as I like to call it, and it was just a joy to watch. Visually, it was stunning. Him on the ramp dropping down was the campiest but funniest but coolest scene I've seen in Game of Thrones. I loved it. I don't have enough to say about this other than I loved it. And then, obviously, let's get to Theon. I loved Theon right there because you saw the little reek twitch when he was considering what to do, and then he decided to jump overboard. And me and Mark got into a little scuffle about this earlier. I think Theon was perfectly, this is what PTSD is, right there, in your face. That's exactly what it looks like. And I think it was very well done that he did what he did, and I think this is going to come back, and he's going to make up for it eventually.
He cannot. Theon is officially cannot make up for this, but I'll get to that in a minute. Chris, how about you?
I mean, it was good. The big thing that hit me was that Euron basically is. That scene was what I expected from Victarion. Victarion? Is that how you say it in the books?
Victarion.
Where Victarion, when he comes in, just he's a terror on the ocean, right? He wears full body armor because he doesn't give a shit about drowning and stuff like that. That's cool because that's how I pictured him. It's the most badass version of a pirate you could think of. It's not Jack Sparrow being kooky,
Yeah.
So that was cool, but I do think it was filmed a little bit weird because I don't know. It's just because I saw the raid recently, but God, man, people cut way too many times when they film action sequences in American movies and stuff. It gave me a headache. It was just swing, axe, cut, finish, axe, cut, jump up, cut. I'm like, oh my God, stop it. Just, I mean, whatever. It's just what stuff is. That's kind of a minor thing, but it was giving me.
Yeah, I mean that's more of an argument against all the way everything in the West is filmed right now.
Everything's not Jackie Chan.
Essentially, yeah. If you want just go watch the Every Frame of Painting on Jackie Chan, you'll get a full discussion of that.
God, watch the raid. Watch the raid. Such a good movie. Okay, off topic.
Yeah.
What else was it? Yara's still cool. Badass. The forced random lesbian sex was kind of okay, sure, why not? We'll do that.
Wait, what do you mean forced?
Forward invasion. I mean, just no. I'm forcing that Game of Thrones just had to add that in there because Yara's Yara. I like the idea that there was 3 sand snakes and the directors came up to them and was like, hey, we need to kill 2 of you guys. Draw straws here.
Yeah.
Wait, which one survived? I don't even know which one survived.
Do you even know each of their names?
No idea.
No.
I know one's Tyene, Obara, and something else.
I think the one who's technically what's her name's daughter.
So the one that survived, was she the one who had the scene with Bronn?
Yes.
That's what saved her. Maybe
because that was back when she had the shorter hair.
Okay. That's why she has long hair. Okay. That's why I didn't recognize her.
Long hair. Yeah,
I
now
mean,
she has
also
long
she wasn't
hair.
naked, so I wouldn't recognize her. So
yeah.
I wouldn't forget those, visuals, stunning visuals.
Stunning visuals.
Yeah. That's about it, I guess. I thought it was alright. It was a cool sequence. Silence was badass. The ship out of nowhere that just comes down. The first drop down was just so like, it almost was like a super R-rated. I guess it was R-rated. Pirates of the Caribbean, where Jack Sparrow would come down and just like murder people.
Oh yeah,
that's what I liked. What else is there?
Theon.
Oh yeah, the Theon stuff. In theory, right? Because Theon couldn't really fight him, right? Because Theon sucked at that point. If he fought him, he would have just killed Yara. Yeah. Asha. Yara. I always forget the two in my head because they're
Yara in the show.
Yara in the show. So like, there really was no reason for him to come at her because he was, 1 versus 1.5 billion, and Euron's a crazy person. So he really couldn't do anything. But it would have been cool for him to see him fight.
So, all right. So I thought, look, I agree with a lot of what you guys said. I think that this was like a really cool scene. I love that this was like the first naval to naval battle we've ever really seen. I mean, we've seen some like naval stuff, but never really like straight up ship to ship combat. Silence looked absolutely amazing. Everything I said last week about Euron, to be honest, like has now paid off. I thought the like Jack Sparrow factor now worked completely for me. Like that shot of him coming down, as Cory said, was really, really good. And overall, I thought like it, other than like just the general cutting issues, like, yeah, it did look like visually it was just like a really cool battle. That said, I really have some narrative problems with this battle. Like, one, I kind of felt like it was pointless, like in the overall arch of this story. Like, the Sand Snakes, they kind of decided, okay, you guys don't matter. Like, everyone hated the whole Dornish plot line, 2 seasons ago. And I felt like they've been like, well, what are we going to do with these characters? Just have them die because we want to have this really cool battle. I don't really know why. Like, I just don't really know why they were there. Having Theon and Yara get to Dany's, like, even then, like, I'm just not even sure why that even needed to happen, like, with like how quickly this played out. And then on top of that, I completely disagree with Cory. I really hated Theon's interactions here. I mean, I understand that there wasn't really much he could do, but like, we just had this whole like Theon redemptive arc, and Theon is now going to stand up and protect Sansa and do all this stuff, and like, Theon is not actually afraid of death. Like, I feel like that's not what Theon is. Like, Theon is obviously, like, the Reek stuff is there. But I feel like the just straight, like, okay, I'm just going to jump off the ship. Like, I don't know. I would have been, like, a lot more okay with him, like, just straight killing himself there and being like, I'm not going to get tortured again. There's nothing I can do. That's it. Like, fine. But, like, to have him just jump off the ship felt a little bit passive. And then also, just in general, like, that's all you needed to do to save yourself. Like, you just jumped off the ship and that was it. He's fine. Like, that felt a little, like, easy to me.
This is why I disagree with you on this. Because I think Reek's always going to be a part of him. That's it. It's ingrained in him. He has, like, almost like a two-faced mentality, like, on that stuff. I think you saw Theon reek its head. I swear I didn't even try to do that. Reek its head last season. But
that's not even Reek. Reek doesn't run away. Reek just...
Yes, he does. He did it. Remember when Yara tried to rescue him last, I think, was it last season or 2 seasons ago?
3 or 4, 3, yeah. At least 3. But
that was almost identical.
Wonder one?
Like, them locking eyes like that, it was almost an identical thing. And I think what that proved is Reek is not gone. It's still a part of him.
But that's not. But Reek is not the guy who runs away. Reek is the guy who sits down and like, if he had like literally like bowed down to Euron right there, and been like, "You are king of the Iron Islands," and like, okay, that's the Reek. That's the Ramsay has broken this person and he's 100% obedient and he has no will of his own. That's like, he didn't run away. Like, yes, he eventually runs when he kind of becomes Theon. Like, that's not even the way Reek was. I just feel like if you were gonna go through this whole Theon redemptive arc, and then for you to say like, oh, like he's not done, and like he's gonna, he's never redeemed that. Like I'm never gonna be okay with Theon.
That I'm okay with you saying, and I could understand if that they just choose never to redeem him. That's fine, but them going through with this had its place, and I think fine if this is the direction they decide to go with him. He's Reek. That's it, and he's a coward.
Then he has no point in the story. Then he should be dead. I've noticed. Why is he even alive?
Because it was interesting. Like it was interesting to see what he's been doing.
What's he going to do now?
Who knows? Maybe he makes his way back over to Daenerys and lets her know of the catastrophe that I don't know.
I just don't have much patience for like pawns anymore. Like to spend a lot of time on like the inner workings of pawns. It's like he's not a player. I don't care. And if they're gonna then go like a full on like, okay, Theon's gonna then redeem himself a second time and he's gonna kill Euron or something, it's like, I don't know. But to me, like this to me like really hints at like, and I haven't said this on a podcast because I've never done it, but like my biggest problem with something that a lot of people love in Battle of the Bastards, like I really didn't like the way the like pure narrative, take out all of the way the battle looked and all that played out, like purely what is the story. If you just write in battle happens for the battle, I thought that narratively it really didn't work for me. And I don't want to get into why, like all the reasons why, and I'm sure that'll happen at some point. But this was another example of like I just wasn't 100% on board with the narrative. And yeah, it was a really cool scene, but I don't like it when Game of Thrones is like, yes, let's do a really cool scene just because we can. Like, no, make your really cool scenes like work.
Have a reason for the cool scenes.
Yeah.
But you're saying
I think that the Theon scene had a reason though. Like,
yeah,
because basically the thing with Theon was, has he snapped out of it? Yes or no? And then you realize like no, he's not. Which I mean, you could be tired of his story arc, but it's still progressing. I think.
I'm just tired of his story arc, to be honest.
I can see that.
And I thought it would have, for me, narratively, it would have worked. That at least would have worked a lot better if he had just like either killed himself or just kind of like sat down, like bowed down and like been killed. Like that to me would have felt like, okay, yeah, he's not like the Reek is still there. He cannot survive in this world, and this world doesn't have a place for cowards and doesn't have a place for someone who can't fight for themselves. But the fact that he's the one who's still alive and like he just jumps off the ship, it's like I don't know.
Do you think it would have been cool? Would you have rather it been the other way around? That
what do you mean?
He gets captured instead,
and Yara like chooses not to save him,
or something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, that would have been really cool because then we're getting to see a different side of Yara. We're getting to see sort of Yara deciding her self-interest is more important than a brother who she doesn't like. We don't entirely know how much she even cares about. That's fine. Like that would have worked. All right. Well, final question: who's hanging from the ship? It's the Sand Snakes?
Yeah, 2 of the Sand Snakes.
I think it's
who's still alive?
The what's her name?
Isn't Yara still alive?
Yeah, Yara. They captured Yara.
Well,
they captured
we don't know
2 of the one of the Sand Snakes. They captured the mother, or one of the mother.
Are they making it past next episode?
Yeah, I think.
Well,
Cersei,
here's the question:
Cersei's gonna torture the shit out of
the
them.
gift to Cersei?
Yeah.
Okay, just making sure.
If it is, I also think that Cersei's going to kind of laugh in his face.
What, like she doesn't care that like.
I think she's going to be like, "This is my gift." Like, really?
She brought him the people who killed her daughter. I don't know. It's a pretty good.
I mean, I guess that's true. That's true. I forget the Marcella part of it. All right, that's fair.
Yeah.
I take that back. All right, Cersei might.
I think Ilaria and what's her name are the gift to Cersei, and then Yara's just gonna be his like. Fuck with her.
Plaything.
Yeah. I don't want to say plaything because in Game of Thrones that means a lot of different things.
Well,
but
obviously, yes. Let's
but his own like tool to use for something.
Yeah. All right. That's fair. I'll change my mind on that ending part. We'll see. Depends on how some things go from here. I mean, I said it before, but yeah, Silence did look fucking incredible though. They really paid off on that shit.
Yep.
All right, so it's getting pretty late, so we are going to wrap things up. So we will talk about our final thoughts on the episode and our rating. We have a guest here, so I will explain the rating scale. We are rating episodes between a 0 and a 10, and we are rating episodes against all of television, not just Game of Thrones. So that is going to affect things a little bit. A 5 is obviously 100% average. A 10 is unbelievably perfect, and a 0 is the worst episode you've ever seen. And if you want to give an episode a 10, I'm going to really hold you to it and force you to justify it. I don't know if anyone is, but I'm just going to say that. So, Cory, why don't you kick things off? Your final thoughts and your rating out of 10.
Very good episode. As I said earlier on, we're at the point now where every story is not interdependent from each other. Everything is one expanded universe now, and the battle lines have been drawn, and every side makes its case. On every side, there's a likable person that you're rooting for. I'd argue on Cersei's side, you have Jaime and a few other people that I really like. The Tullys. I love the Tullys just as a whole. Obviously, the Starks have everything going for them. I love the fact Arya decided to go up to Winterfell instead of trying to kill the Queen. I think that was a really good decision. And Mark, as you said, that point, as soon as she got on her horse, you as the viewer had no idea what she was going to do. There was an equal chance of her going either way. And I thought that was a very suspenseful moment, even though it was only a few seconds long. This was a great episode. It continued the momentum from the first episode from last week. And I have to give this episode, I think, an 8.2.
That's very interesting. Danny, how about you? Your final thoughts and your rating.
Yeah, I thought it was a really good episode. I'm actually going to go ahead and give it a 9. I just thought, and again, maybe my perspective is a little different because I didn't read the books, but I just thought as a piece of television, I wouldn't give it a 10 per se, and a lot of that's coming from some of the discussions we've had, but I thought just overall it was so well put together. Within the series in terms of setting it up for the last 2 seasons, but also just the episode itself, from starting out with the grand strategizing and just ending with such an epic naval battle and kind of showing just foreshadowing how much is going to go wrong. And I don't know. I thought the episode really played a crucial part, turning point in terms of especially for Daenerys. And again, obviously it didn't directly involve her or the Unsullied, but just this was the first, all right, maybe it's not like she gets to Westeros and then she has King's Landing. I thought it was really well done, really well filmed. I thought I would stick by a 9.
All right, Chris, how about you?
What did I give the last one? I can't remember now.
It was a 6.5, I think.
Sure. I think this is the first time I feel like in combination of the entirety of the show and the entirety of reading all 5 of the books that I actually realized how cool the Greyjoys could be. Because there was a long time I thought the Greyjoys were discount shitty Jack Sparrows. But this, I can see how cool it could be. So yeah, that was the first real eye opener, you could say, for the Greyjoys. I'm glad we got to see Nymeria again. That was cool. Although I feel like the CG could have been a little better. They just took a wolf and made her bigger. You could have done something to her. You make her look fucking bloodthirstier. I don't know.
Unless that's not actually Nymeria, and that's the point.
It's definitely a dire wolf, though. You see how big that thing was? It's like a cow.
Yeah, it's true.
The Jorah stuff's cool because I want to know what's gonna happen with that. Because J Bear, man, gotta love my J Bear. And yeah, so those are the 3 that are really interesting right now. Three storylines. Oh yeah, also the Danny meeting Jon, because that's 20 years in the making as well. So yeah, I'm just excited for what's happening. It almost feels like the first episode was all set up, and this is even more set up, which is kind of, yeah. So I'll give it 7.5.
Okay. So this is gonna. Grant, this is hardly a first for me, but I'm gonna actually be one of the higher ones on this episode. I'm actually higher than you on this episode, Cory, which is really funny because I feel like I've been arguing with you the whole time about problems I have with it. But I said it in my opening, and I'll say it again. Like, to me, the problems I have with this episode are the kind of things that keep this episode from being a 9.5 or above, that I think this episode has the potential to be. There are some really phenomenal things in here. And to me, like, if that final battle had landed in a way that, like, obviously it was a little bit shorter, but like in the way that like Hardhome had, this would have been like a truly spectacular episode. And unfortunately, those little gripes that I'm having bring it down from that upper tier. However, I'm still really high in it. So I'm going to give this episode an 8.8, just a little bit below, that 9 range of like truly fantastic because of the things that I've outlined. But I do think that we're really getting into this season, and there's really still been a lot to like. And if the season continues upon the trend that it's going from the first episode and into this one, I will be really, really happy. Because I think this has been like 2 very, very high quality episodes. So with that, we are going to close this out. This has been the Crossroads Inn. Thank you to Chris for handling our production. Thank you to Cory for talking. Thank you for Danny for coming on. We really appreciate you being on as a guest.
Thanks for having me on.
Check out all of our stuff. I think our social medias are plastered all around somewhere. I have no idea where. I'm just kind of pointing randomly.
Point below you. Point below you.
Yeah, okay, cool. But follow us on Twitter. I've been trying to tweet a little bit more about all things thoughts from Aunt Wooey. We should have our regular episode of the podcast coming out on Wednesday. I believe we're going to kind of settle on Wednesday release dates on those. I'm hoping to keep that up currently. So moving on to the library on that. We will be back next week, same time on Monday for the next episode, for episode 3. So a lot of cool stuff's coming. There's also a Hearthstone card announced today, so get ready. There should be some Hearthstone content coming soon. Although
you have a whole
If
show
you
on
even
one
count
card.
that.
No, we're not doing a show on one card. But
That's impressive.
there was a card announced. It's a
Oh.
terrible card, but at least there
something.
should be some more card reveals coming.
Gotcha.
So once
Alright.
there's been another at least 5 or 6 card reveals, Cory and I, and potentially some guests, will hop on and talk about that. So get ready for looking for that. So thank you guys for tuning in. We always appreciate our viewers, and we will talk to you guys soon.
I was not dropping that many frames either, guys. We did it. Spectrum
That's
pulled
nice.
through. Okay.
All right.
See?
So I completely forgot to look at chat. There was actually some people saying
Yeah.
things.
All right.
Really?
See you guys later. Peace.